Hello, and welcome to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. I'm Isla Garcia, master's degree of nutrition science and registered dietitian, and I'm going to make weight loss realistic, sustainable, and uncomplicated for your busy lifestyle. On this podcast, me and my team of registered dietitians will decipher the latest nutrition research, dissect fad diets, and discuss social media trends for you so you can feel confident knowing what to eat to achieve your health goals. Research suggests that most weight loss programs aren't successful, but my experience has taught me that this is not because the participants aren't committed. It's because those diets are designed by non-nutrition professionals and center around severe restrictions. We are here to provide the facts about the science of weight loss so you can have the success you want and continue living your best life. Welcome back to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. This is Isla, your founder, CEO, and host of our podcast. Today, I have another previous client. It's going to be a previous client of Lacey's, but thank you so much for joining us today, Danielle.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So introduce us to yourself a little bit. So tell us where you live, kind of like what you do. Do you have a family? Who do you live with? All the things.
I do have a family. I have a husband who runs 2 restaurants and is the owner operator of those. I have twin 4-year-olds who are in preschool, always bringing home all the germs, and our little rescue dog. So that's my family. I'm a teacher. I teach high school and I teach junior college history. Not a lot of free time going on there, but yeah, that's my life, the kids and the dog and the work.
Yes, I mean, that is a lot. And then where do you live?
Oh, I'm in Santa Rosa, California.
Gotcha.
The wine country.
So what does that mean? That's Northern California?
Yes, that's Northern California. Yeah.
Okay,
all the wine
gotcha.
restaurants.
Do you have any hobbies or do anything outside of it, or is it busy being a working mom?
I'm basically too busy. Any free time I have, I go for walks with my friends, so we can catch up and get our steps in.
Yes. But tell us a little bit about your weight stories to kind of catch us up with what was going on before Lacey started working with you. Like, what did you specifically struggle with, do you think?
Well, in life, I'd always been very active and never struggled with my weight. I'd always felt very confident with how I looked and the weight I was at. Once I got into my 30s, it became a little more challenging. So I would count calories when I wanted to get back down to where I was, but I love exercising. I was raised eating pretty healthy. My parents were big on salads and, eating healthy things. So it wasn't really a struggle for me, but then I got pregnant with twins.
Mm.
And then I was put on bed rest, and then I had gestational diabetes, and I could barely walk because I had so much swelling in my body. So my body basically I lost control of it entirely. So after I had my twins, my weight was much higher than I was comfortable with.
Mm.
I gained about 70 pounds while I was pregnant with them, it was a lot for somebody who's always been very active and in pretty fit shape. And so that was hard because I felt like my body wasn't mine anymore with the pregnancy and all the weight. And so I started losing it slowly, and then the pandemic happened. So that didn't help. Because suddenly I went from being an active teacher outside of my house to being stuck at home with 2 2-year-olds at the time.
Mhm.
So I realized I was only taking I don't know how many steps a day. It was really sad. I was down the hallway. So I decided to try Noom.
Mhm.
And because I felt like I needed more help after I started counting calories again. It just wasn't coming off the same way after the pregnancy. And so I started Noom because I'd seen so many ads and it seemed like a legit program based on all the reviews I read from, the different news sources and things that reviewed it, these kinds of things. And so I tried that, and I'd love to break down how it went for me. It's not a bad program.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of things in it that make a lot of sense. But for me, switching to your program was so much more efficient,
Mm.
and just dialed in so much more. That it was like night and day for me as an experience. For Noom, they have a calorie counter on there, which they start everyone at about 1,200 calories, I think, which I
Mhm.
learned from you is the amount of calories my toddlers need, not me as a full-grown human who needs to survive. So they start at 12, and then you have to earn your calories beyond that. So for
Oh.
every calorie you burn, you get a half a calorie back. So it's your incentive to do your steps, right? And 2, exercise. And I love to exercise, but that made me start doing too much exercise.
Mm.
When I joined you guys, I was walking 10 miles a day so that I could eat more than 1,200 calories. And Lacey pointed out very quickly that that was too much walking and not efficient. I didn't know that you could over exercise to the point that you're not helping yourself lose weight. That was a revelation for me, because no one talks about that. I mean, obviously you can over exercise to like, too much exertion and things, right? But I didn't know that it starts to work against you for weight loss. So that's one of the things that Lacey taught me. She actually told me I was taking too many steps even when I was trying to scale back. And so I was doing that, and I was also weight training, and just trying so hard every day to burn the amount of calories it told me I needed to eat like a normal human. And so that was a huge, it turned out, waste of my time, because in a year I lost 16 pounds doing that, versus on your program, I lost 13 in 12 weeks. And also what I was eating, it turned out, was not the best thing for weight loss, because theirs is only based on caloric density, which is important, but it's not the be all end all of weight loss. They have a ranking system of green foods are like, eat as much as you want. Yellow foods, like proceed with caution, don't overeat this. And red foods, like limit. Well, red foods are things like almonds, right? And all nuts fall in there. So I wasn't eating almonds anymore, because I was like, oh, well, that ruins my whole counting for the day, because my red just went bigger than it was supposed to be. If you eat a ton of vegetables, it's happy with you, because those all are low in caloric density, but it doesn't look at the protein that you're getting. So you could literally just eat like fruits and vegetables all day, and it's like, great work, you're doing amazing, but you're not eating for your needs, because there's no looking at what you're eating, just the density of it in terms of calories. And they have coaches, wellness coaches, but they're just people who apparently have worked in some sort of capacity for wellness. So that didn't really come out very specific to me. So I actually never really talked to the coach. They put you in a huge group with a bunch of people that were all posting in the group about like their workouts and what they were eating. But it was mostly complaining or looking at other people's workouts. Like, I'm already working out, I don't need that motivation. And the coach for me, I think, changed after the first few weeks. I noticed like suddenly there was a new coach. So I felt really uncomfortable with that like, here's one person and they're just like interchangeable. Suddenly there's a new person, and they didn't have any credentials explained or anything. It just said that they had done Noom themselves. So for me, that didn't really feel like enough to ask them for advice or anything. So I was looking at all the articles they give you. That's the other part of this, is articles. Well, the articles you're supposed to read every day focus on changing your behavior, changing your thoughts. And I really am not someone who needed that part to click together. Like, I know that, eating at night in a huge binge is not going to help me, like things like that, that it didn't really feel like were benefiting me to read every day. And it got into a lot of like, they have like a cute little quizzes and things to try to make you focus on what you're reading. I'm a teacher. If I'm going to read something, I'm going to really read it. I don't need you to force me to take a cute little quiz at the end with like fun distractors that they thought up in some room somewhere trying to be cute on their program. So it just felt like a lot of it wasn't really benefiting me myself. Like someone else might really benefit from working on the behavioral side of it, but I really didn't need that.
Right.
So in the end, I just felt like I was wasting a huge amount of time, and I just kept plateauing. I'd lose like 2 pounds in a month. When I started, I lost 6. And then for the rest of the time, it was like maybe a pound and a half a month. And it just felt like such slow progress. And some months I wouldn't lose any weight at all. And their take on plateaus is just like, just keep going. I remember a whole section about it in the reading was like, just keep following the program. And nobody's checking in on what you're eating, how much you're exercising, any of that. It's, you have to reach out to them. So there wasn't somebody to be like, hey, 10 miles a day, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's too much. Right. Like, so in the end, I just felt like it wasn't very efficient use of my time, obviously, because I wasn't losing very much. I think if you were starting from nothing, maybe it might be helpful. But it's not going to be the fastest, like healthiest way. Cause if you're just eating vegetables all day and there's no one to say, hey, that's not going to fuel your needs as a human, it's not going to be effective. So I just think there's a lot of cracks in their system that they need to plug if they want to have everyone be successful. And so I wouldn't say it was a bad program, but it definitely wasn't the best one for me in the end.
Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. And I hear that a lot with clients. And I've even like met people in real life. They're like, no, I lost a lot of weight with Noom and I kept it off. I was like, okay, great. And maybe that I think less complicated, less clinical of an approach could work for like, yeah, like you said, like maybe people starting from scratch. But I hear that same story of like people like lose weight initially and then they plateau, but there's nobody there to really like customize it for them. And so I hear that often. And that makes sense for you. Do you love our realistic approach on nutrition but want to dive a little bit deeper? Let me tell you about the Millennial Living Membership Program. This was designed to help you stay motivated and inspired no matter what health journey you're on. We develop monthly nutrition and fitness challenges with prizes you can win if you stick with it to help motivate you through every month. To inspire you, we upload weekly recipes with downloadable food lists, monthly food demos, and we can even have a registered dietitian answer your questions on nutrition and weight loss. Our members form a community with other like-minded people to help support each other on their health journey. If you are seeking a way to stay motivated throughout your health journey with our method in mind, try signing up for the Millennial Living Membership Program for the first 2 weeks free by signing up on our website at themillennialnutritionist.com. Did doing all that like make you think any differently about weight loss, or like what did it feel like? Was it like frustrating? Did it feel good?
It honestly, I feel like it was detrimental because of the amount of walking I was doing and things. Like I am looking like my watch, my Apple Watch is telling me like, do more, because it gives you those monthly challenges.
Yeah.
My watch is trying to tell me to burn like 2,000 calories a day, right? Like, so the program is telling me like exercise more to eat more. So if I want to have pizza with my kids, I need to walk 5 more miles, right? And my watch is telling me now to exercise an insane amount because I'm over exercising.
Right.
So it's like actually pushing me to spend way more time doing things I shouldn't be doing and feeling like I have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you shouldn't feel like you have to exercise to eat food. Like
Right.
that's not beneficial. So yeah, I feel like it was really taking away from my experience trying to lose weight and probably frustrating me more than it needed to be.
Yeah. And I feel like I can kind of pick up that you're like it sounds like a very organized and very like motivated person. So that definitely isn't your issue. It just seemed like you were kind of given like the wrong materials for you to lose weight. Is that what you feel like you're kind of saying?
Yeah, when it's telling me like, hey, you're doing a great job doing all these things, I'll keep doing them even if they're the wrong things, which it
Right.
turns out to be. Yeah,
Oh
I'll check
no.
those boxes. My watch wants me to walk 2,000 miles a month. Okay, I'll do it. And that turns out not to be a good idea.
Well, yeah. So then bring us up to speed. Like, why did you like reach out to sign on for our client with Lacey?
So I saw you guys on Instagram, just a random suggestion on my Instagram feed. And so I started following and thought like, this seems really great to have someone with an actual credential that's been, tested and registered to do this with a master's degree. I have a master's degree to teach, and I have to have a credential to teach high school students anything. So it makes sense that I want to work with somebody who also has gone through a similar process for their work,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just some random wellness coach, right? There's so many programs that are using wellness coaches, Beachbody, all of them, just like you just sign up. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't mean they know what they're doing. So I really wanted to work with somebody who I knew what they were doing. And I do have a secondary credential in health science. So I've read enough, and I was raised by a doctor and a nurse, to when I'm listening to you and just seeing your clips on Instagram to be like, this lady knows what she's talking about. She's talking about science. She's using clinical terms, like, and explaining them properly. So I felt really safe looking at who you have working for you,
Mm-hmm.
to reach out and try this. I remember telling you it was either this or a tummy tuck. Like I was getting so frustrated with my body not doing what I wanted it to do. And so I thought like, I'll make the investment. I will try it. I read Lacey's bio, having worked with vegetarians and vegans. And I thought like, this sounds like the right lady for me. So I was really excited to try, and it worked out wonderfully. Like I was so happy.
I kind of remember if that's why you went with Lacey, because you're vegetarian or vegan, right?
I'm a vegetarian. Yeah.
Okay.
Since I was 13, and I'm 40. So it's been a minute. And I didn't want somebody being like, well, if you ate chicken, this would
Right.
be really easy, right? Or just kind of guessing at what I might be successful with. So yeah, having somebody with that background was really helpful. I felt really comfortable with.
Yeah, awesome. And then at the beginning was like anything surprising to you as you got started, probably started talking about like tracking, things like that. Was anything surprising to you?
Well, I'd been tracking for a year straight on Noom, so
Hmm.
that was really easy. I was surprised when she told me, yeah, that's too much exercise is bad. She wanted me to take rest days, which I had not been doing at all. And even when I wasn't trying to like get too many steps in, like I would just try to walk some and then call it good for the day and call it a rest day. I remember she was like 23,000 steps is not a rest day. Stop it. It was a busy day. I had a back to school night. I had all these things going on, and I just thought that was fine. So she was calling me out on my bad behavior that I thought wasn't a problem. And that was good. I was surprised that eating more protein was going to make such a difference.
Hmm.
When my Quest bar says it's like 40% of the protein requirement, right? So as a normal human in the world, if you look at that and you think like, okay, that's 40%. If I had
Right.
eggs this morning and some yogurt at lunch, I should be fine. I don't need
Hmm.
to worry about more protein because the USDA or whatever said I was fine. So I didn't know that I needed a lot more to lose weight.
Mm.
Um, I learned that in one of the videos that you have where you explain it like your body is like a wood chipper.
Yeah.
And if you put in carbs, it's like a piece of paper going into a wood chipper. And if you put in protein, it's like putting in like a metal bar
Yeah.
into the wood chipper that your body takes so much more to break it down. And that's why I was like, oh, I had actually never heard that. Uh,
Mm.
so that was a huge thing for me to understand like, oh, this is why we up our protein intake because now I can fuel my muscles and everything properly. Because I do weightlift a lot. I really enjoy it. And I'm lifting heavy weights and I'm lifting my kids. I want to see my muscles, but they can't get there if I'm not feeding them more protein while trying to lose weight. Because I did put on more muscle while losing fat. And I know that that's because the difference in what I was eating versus just the number of calories and the amount of exercise.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a huge takeaway for me because I was already eating the vegetables and the fruit and all that,
Hmm.
but that was my major shift in terms of food was drastically increasing my protein intake.
Yeah, yeah. And how did you do that? Just if anybody else there is like kind of struggling, even like speaking to other vegetarians, like what did you have to do specifically? Like what do you eat or anything like that?
So I eat lots of egg whites. I buy it by the big container.
Uh-huh.
Um, and a lot of Icelandic yogurt. That's what
Okay.
turned me on to the Icelandic yogurt for the low sugar and higher protein.
Mhm.
And so I started making overnight oats with yogurt. I started adding yogurt into lots of things. Cottage cheese, I already grew up on. And so I eat a lot of that. Quest bars, I love. I have those in my bag all the time. As I'm driving to pick up my kids or something, I'm eating a Quest bar for snack. And just paying attention to extra snacks that have protein. Like
Mhm.
I had a Yasso bar every single night that I was on this program because it has 5 grams of protein and only 100 calories. So like paying attention to what can I eat that has more protein in it. Um, and going back to eating things like almonds because they are not bad. So I put those back into my diet for more. So yeah, that's my main protein sources because I'm an ovo-lacto vegetarian. I
Mhm.
like cheese. I like eggs and like string cheese. The snacks that my kids have, I pay attention to which of those has protein so that if I need a little bit more, I can always grab things like that.
Yeah. Okay, good. So dairy, it sounds like dairy and supplements is kind of what I heard from that you added in. Do you feel like you learned anything from the tracking? So whether it was like different with like having Lacey help you or like even just speaking to people who maybe haven't even tracked as long as you have, even like with Noom, like did tracking help you with anything along this journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think tracking in general is a great idea so you can get a better idea of what you're eating and what that's doing for you. Because I do love to eat things that have sugar in them or love to eat things that just have tons of carbs. And it really helps you think about like, is this really what I want to eat? Like, what am I getting out of it versus what I really want? Like I noticed when I was tracking with the MyFitnessPal, I didn't really feel like pizza was a big enough payoff that I wanted to get a whole pizza. It was like, I'll just buy like the little Trader Joe's ones with my kids and have they have a little one and I have a little one that's 250 calories. And then there won't be a huge amount of leftover pizza that I feel like I have to eat because it's going to be wasted. So just kind of shifting mentality of like, what do I really want versus like what's convenient and tastes good, I feel like is a really big benefit of tracking. And for me, overall, knowing that I'm fueling my body properly, because even though no one's checking my journal now, I still like to do it to know that I got enough calcium for the day. I got enough fiber. I'm taking care of myself. Having had diabetes, I never want to have that again. And cancers that run in families, run in mine, like colon cancer. And I don't want to have that. So I know that a healthy diet is one of the main things they want you to focus on. So I know that if I'm looking at, I ate properly for fueling my body, I am helping to keep myself healthy long-term. I have lowered my risk of everything essentially, that diet can help with. So it really empowers you as a person to know that you're doing the right thing for yourself when you track it. And it breaks down so many things. And I get mad at it all the time. So it's like, you had too much sugar because you ate grapes. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ignore that and focus on all the other parts. So that's one of the things I tell people. It does kind of, it feels mean sometimes when my pal is like, you went over. But to try to let that go, because I like doing things perfectly. And then to have to tell me I did something wrong upsets me. So I just had to learn to tell my fitness pal that Lacey knew better and to leave it alone.
Yeah, that is my one. I wish that they didn't do that with the sugar. I wish it was more like added sugar or something like that. Cause that's like, I hate it too when you put in something and it's like, but I know that's like good for me.
I'm like, I ate grapes and strawberries. What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. What about like your experience of working with a one-to-one coach? So you kind of hit on this a little bit ago with like the difference, like with like the Noom versus like working with Lacey. Like, what was that like? Why did you find it helpful?
I loved working with Lacey because, well, for one, I liked having just somebody paying attention to me only and knowing that they're checking on me, because then I'm more likely to be accountable. I don't want to, I'm a people pleaser. I don't want to let somebody down. And I'm sure if I had done horribly, she still would have been like, great job. You're really trying. But I wanted to be like the most perfect client she ever had. Like I imagined you guys having staff meetings and you're going around talking about your clients. And she's like, mine is perfect and doesn't need anything. That's the person I want to be. So just imagining that like she's checking it every morning, like when she wakes up, oh, how did Danielle eat yesterday? Like, did she do what I told her to do? Did she walk too much? Like, that's what I imagined happening. It probably wasn't happening like that, but that's how I thought of it, to help myself just be extra motivated to do the right thing for myself, to get the most out of the program that I could. So that was one part of it, just what I imagined her doing. But then when we would actually talk, she was like the biggest hype woman I ever could have hoped for. Like if I could pay her just to call me every day and tell me I was doing a good job still, I would do that. Because that's what she was always doing. She'd be like, you hit 125 grams of protein that day. Great job. How'd you do that? Like, she was always just telling me like how great I was doing following her instructions. And for me, that just felt so wonderful. Because there's no one else in my life constantly being like, you're doing great. And that was so helpful. And also just feeling like if I did have any questions, she was always there. Anytime I sent her a question through the app, she responded sometimes right away, and always within the day. So I really felt like she was there for me whenever I needed it. She was also very understanding when I was always complaining that everyone was sick all the time with different forms. I even got norovirus when I was working with this. And she's like, oh, that must have been so hard, but look at you. You still did a great job and lost weight and all the, so feeling like I had a cheerleader all the time was encouraging to stick with it. So yeah, that accountability, that like support, feeling important to someone who's checking on you all the time. For me, that was really great versus like feeling like I'm in this by myself, because I have felt like I was in my weight loss by myself for a long time, especially because, being in isolation, California shut down pretty hard. So I wasn't anybody for a long time. So I couldn't be like in, groups with coworkers or anything, because my coworkers were all at home. I never saw any of them. So this was really a supportive, comfortable way to do all of this for me.
Yeah, no, I love all of that. Did Lacey help you like with anything specifically that like you didn't know before? I guess you touched on some things like the
Oh,
steps and stuff like that.
absolutely. Yeah. Over exercising for sure. And another huge one is I usually had low blood sugar
Mm,
randomly. I would just have days where like in the afternoon, my blood sugar would just tank out. And when I was using Noom, I noticed it happening a lot more in the morning where I'd
mm,
start to feel my blood sugar get low. I'd feel shaky, getting a headache and think like, what is going on? I ate breakfast. Like I had egg whites, I had wheat toast. Like what's going on here? And she actually helped me figure out it's completely tied to my cycle, you know.
mm,
And so something I've been experiencing since I was 13, I had no idea was tied to my cycle's hormones. And now I know, like, okay, that's what's going on. I need to eat more protein in the
mm,
morning, especially. I need to pay more attention to eating everything throughout the day, probably eat more like 120, 125 grams of protein in the day. And then I don't have as hard a time. And it's easier for me to talk myself down during that initial feeling
mm-hmm,
because when my blood sugar drops, I want to eat everything. Like that's what my body is telling me to do. It's like go to the kitchen and eat a jar of peanut butter, like just and put it on crackers and then maybe get a bagel with cream cheese. Like just things I really don't want to eat, but it feels like I have to. That's when I would have my biggest binges was like when I felt like I was dying. And now even if I drop a little low, I can ride it out better because I've been regulating it more through what I'm eating and don't feel that overwhelming urge to eat everything in my kitchen. So that was huge for me because I had never figured that out. I didn't know the two could be tied together. I didn't know your cycle could affect your hunger hormones and your blood sugar. So big news from Lacey, but a huge help because yeah, insulin issues are things I want to avoid as much as possible. And
mm-hmm.
I felt like that was worth the cost altogether because I don't want to be binging every time my sugar drops or feeling shaky at work because I needed to just eat 10 more grams of protein before I left the house that day. So that was a huge change that she made for me in my health and life that I had not figured out.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even realize that, that relates, but that makes a lot of sense. But,
Yeah, I read a bunch of articles after. There's
uh-huh,
actually some people who have like a whole business based on it, but it involves giving up sugar and gluten and dairy. And I
uh,
decided was not interested in reading more about that.
yeah.
But yeah, for some people, apparently it can be heavily tied. And I am one of those lucky people. So yeah, news to me.
And then when you went through the rest of the program, like probably working through like produce, exercise, protein, was there anything else that like came up or surprised you with anything or anything that Lacey helped you with?
Um, we just worked on trying to vary what I was eating a little bit more. I'm a creature of habit. And so I like to eat a lot of the same things. And she encouraged me to, try to incorporate different things a little bit more, like more tofu.
Mm-hmm.
And I even had some tempeh, which I do not love, but she encouraged me to try new things. So we did. Um, just kind of mixing it up more. In terms of what I was eating, but I keep a lot of staples just around because I have no time with the kids and they love just, broccoli that I popped out of the freezer and
Mm-hmm.
thawed out. So it doesn't have to be complicated. And she helped me with restaurants, just trying to figure out like what I can eat even at my husband's restaurant that are the best choices. And that was really helpful. So I could feel like, yeah, when I go out, this is what Lacey said was my best choice. Or when I go to get a burrito bowl, don't let them put sour cream and guac and cheese, like pick two of the three.
Mm-hmm.
So just helpful tips in figuring out for my long-term success what was going to work for me, where I go, what I do, um, was really helpful.
Awesome. When we were talking about, I like checked in with Lacey to see like what she thought were some of your biggest accomplishments.
Did she say
I
I was
think
the
it
best client ever?
you did come up and we do have like monthly meetings. And she was like, I don't know what to do because she walks so much already. And so we're like, let's see what happens if we just get her to walk less. And so we were like all very invested in your journey. I'll say like every time we met, we're like, how's Danielle doing? How's Danielle doing?
Okay, so I wasn't imagining that
Yeah.
that happened. It does happen. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. No, but Lisa's like, no, she's doing great. We only had to change a couple things. But along with that, like with the protein, for people out there that might struggle with it, like
Mhm.
Was there anything as far as like timing or like planning to get more in, or like having to keep it stocked? I mean, you're a mom. I get like with my mom clients, at least a lot of them are like, well, my husband ate it or my kids ate it, da da da. Like, how did you, how do you do all that with everything you're juggling?
Well, if somebody else is eating it, pick out things they don't like.
Oh,
That would be step one. My husband's not touching my cottage cheese or my egg whites. He does not
okay.
do that. Yeah, most people either love or hate cottage cheese. So, yeah, even my kids say it smells funny. So they're not taking it. So that's helpful too, because your children might try to steal your food. Kids are notorious for that. Is that looks good because you're eating it.
Yeah.
So I have all my stuff. That's actually partly part of it that no one else eats. My kids like flavored yogurts, and I'm only eating plain yogurt that I'm stirring fruit into. So no one else is touching that. I try to get 20 grams at least at every meal.
Hmm.
So that way I'm hitting 60 just with my meals. Often I do hit more. Um, I really tried to add things into like yogurt. I'll add in chia seeds or like adding in things that will add more protein. That's why I started doing the overnight oats with yogurt
Hmm.
just to up the protein intake. And yeah, the Quest bars were really helpful, having that 20 grams as a snack. For me, that is always when I get my most hungry, is in the middle of the afternoon as a teacher. I know most people in general do, but for that's the end of the day. And
Yep.
you finally get to have a snack and now you're starving because you've
Yep.
totaled it. So at like 3 to eat a Quest bar to help me get through to dinner without feeling like I'm really hungry and should eat more. Um, and then yeah, like my Yasso bar, more snacks, like some nuts in the afternoon, or other healthy things as snacks in the evening that have protein in them. Even Quest candy, I love their candy. Like if you're
Oh,
craving some chocolate, they've got ones that are like chocolate, peanuts, and caramel. So you can feel like you had something like as a special treat, but it's like 5 grams of protein in it. So I just keep a bunch of that stuff on hand. So if I'm
mhm.
suddenly feeling like, okay, my kids are eating some Halloween candy, I'm going to go have a piece of that so that I don't steal their Halloween candy, because I don't really need a Snickers, right? But I can have that as a better alternative that's helping
Yeah.
me get the protein goal in for the day. And also, I track everything first thing in the morning,
Okay.
make my plan for the day. That's the other thing that makes it easy for me, is to have a plan and know this is what I'm going to eat each meal, and then I'll get where I want to be. And I alter it through the day if I need to. Like if my kids want something different for dinner than I had planned on not eating, I can switch it out in my phone and then see, am I still getting where I want to be? And making sure everything stays balanced. So that's really helpful too, because then you know ahead of time what you need to do or change through the day versus just like hoping for the best. I don't think it's a good idea to go into your day without a plan on what you're going to eat if you're trying to lose weight.
Good
So
point.
yeah,
And then as far as the exercise, like mentally, was that hard? Because even sometimes I have clients who like run a lot and like that's their stress reliever and they struggle with like not like having that as an outlet anymore. Was that like your situation, or was it really easy for you to just be like, oh, I hated doing that anyway?
I was already, so I don't get to walk outside very much
Hmm.
because I'm doing stuff like in the morning when my kids aren't awake yet. So I'm not going to go out and leave the house.
Hmm.
Um, or I'm just trying to fit in a few minutes at a time. So I'm actually a walk in place person.
Hmm.
And I do a ton of miles that way. I couldn't have done 10 on Noom if I was leaving the house to go walk 10 miles like that. There's no time in my day for that.
Yeah.
So what I do is like in the morning when I'm putting my food in my phone, I walk for 10 minutes while I check my emails, track my food in place, and I'll walk out a mile doing that. So I've got my phone in one hand and I'm marching in place in my kitchen, holding my phone and putting everything in, checking my emails, checking Slack, doing all the things I need to do before I start the morning. So I knock out a mile that way. And then on
Okay.
our break at work in my classroom, same thing. I've got emails to respond to or things to check. My students leave the room, I'm walking in place at my computer. And they'll walk in sometimes at the end of break and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm getting my steps in. I just
All
walked a
right.
mile. So I do that throughout the day, and that's how I get all my miles in without having time to go exercise.
Yeah.
Like I know plenty of moms do not have time to just like
Right.
go to the gym. Like that's not something that's in my realm of possibility, but I do have 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there, especially if I'm multitasking. Like if I'm on the phone, someone calls me, you're going to hear me doing my steps. It's just, that's how it's going to be. Because I'm going to get them in and get this phone call done. So I multitask all the time with the marching. Mentally, it's probably not as good as going and taking a walk. I'm sure there's all kinds of psychological benefits to leaving my house and being in nature, which I feel when I actually get to,
Yeah.
but just to make it happen, that's what I had to do. And that's just how it works for most days.
When
So
you had to like scale back, did that like mess with you mentally at all, or were you like okay with it off the bat?
it was hard mentally to be like, trust the process,
Yeah.
but I felt like, okay, this is her profession. So I'm going to trust her.
Okay.
And that she knows what she's doing, and that this app on my phone that doesn't even have a human checking it does not, that I've
Mhm.
gotten used to. Because that's what programmed me to do that much. I never would have just been like, you know what? I should walk 10 miles a day. That's a great plan. I just kept going more and more because my watch is telling me to, and my app on my phone is telling me to. So I trusted that. And because I kept losing weight, I was so happy because I kept plateauing with Noom. And so I kept doing more and more.
Right.
So to be told you're going to lose more if you do less, that was great. I don't have to spend half my day marching in place like a crazy person. Um,
Right.
right. Like my kids will actually get to see me sit down with them versus like, hold on, mommy's just got to do another mile. I'll be with you in a few. Um, I don't want to be that parent. So yeah, I was excited that she told me to stop doing so much.
Yes, I'm sure. Anything else that you feel like I missed as far as like your biggest accomplishments that you feel like you kind of like took away from working with Lacey?
I just feel really good knowing that going forward, I'm doing the right thing for myself, knowing
Mhm.
that someone has actually checked what I'm doing, a professional, and that I am fueling my body correctly, that I'm not probably going to have blood sugar issues creeping up on me, or that my weight's not going to creep back up. Even when my kids had their birthday party and there were tons of extra brownies, cut them in half, stuck them in my freezer, ate one every night in addition to my Yasso bar, and I still didn't gain weight. So I remember you sharing a brownie story once upon a time, going home and eating lots of brownies. I'm that girl too.
Yeah.
If you see one, you want them all.
Yeah.
So to know that I could, eat some extra brownies for a week and nothing happened, I can trust myself more than I know what I'm
Mhm.
doing. And that it won't just creep back up on me. That I gave away all my size medium clothes when I got back into my smalls, and a lot of my friends were like, "Are you sure you want to give this away?" And I'm like, "Yes, because I will never need this again. I've got a handle on this now. I know what I'm doing. I know I just need to eat extra protein. I'm doing good with my produce. Like." I'm fine. So I feel good. Like, yeah, if I ever looked at the scale and went, oh, wait, I went up, I know how to get back down. I've
Good.
got all the tools. I feel comfortable in that I'm going to be successful going forward. Yeah, I was telling one of my friends today, they were like, oh, what did you like best about working with your coach? And I was like, oh, if I could just pay her to call me every day and tell me I was doing a good job, that's all I would need. Because I didn't need
Oh,
her help. I just wanted the encouragement, and was sad when that went away. Like, I
right.
got everything else down. But yeah, that's how I felt like I really know what I'm doing and I'm going to be fine. And if I'm not,
Yes.
I can call you. So I
Yes.
feel extra safe with what I'm doing now.
Good, good. Yeah, we do offer those like monthly follow-ups if you need them. But yeah, since you finished the program, what is life kind of looking like for you now? Like, how are you maintaining things on your own? Like, how are you actually doing it?
Yeah, I mean, just basically the same thing. I still like doing the tracking. Like I
Hmm.
said, knowing that I got enough calcium today, hooray. And enough fiber, all those things make me really happy. I know that if I stopped doing that, I have memorized so well pretty much like what everything should look like, that I'm not
Hmm.
concerned that it would be a problem. I just like seeing that I hit the little bars. I'm one of the people who likes that. Um,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, I mean, there's definitely been more flexibility once it's like, okay, you lost all the weight you wanted to, and now you can eat. I think I can eat like 350 more calories if I want. Or I know that if I go out to eat and I eat more than I needed to that day, I'm going to be fine the next
Hmm.
day. So I don't feel out of control. I feel very much like I have control of all of this. And so it's been really easy, I feel like, and much more comfortable in life going forward and maintaining this. Yeah, I think for me, it was all super, it all clicked really well and super easy just to understand the science and how this was all working. So yeah, the maintenance has been so far so good. I mean, I didn't weigh myself for a few weeks, and then I got on the scale and I was like, oh, it's basically the same. Great. And
Good.
then I went on the next week and I was like, oh, I went down. Okay. Like, cool. So yeah, it's been really successful. And that's why I tell all my friends, like, if you want to lose weight, call these people.
Oh.
And it's easy. It's fun. And you're doing the right thing for your body.
And do you have any kind of like tips for those who are trying to lose weight or even like talking to your old self before you start working with us? Like, what are some of your tips for like what you can do to get started, or tips like you didn't know that you should work in to lose weight?
Well, yeah, I mean, eating protein and tracking that is like the easiest thing. That was like the biggest, easiest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got it down after like a week. Oh, these are all the things I have to eat. Great. Like that's once you start paying attention to it, that's not hard. For me, just adding a few more fruits and vegetables in the day. I just keep tons of frozen stuff in the freezer. So there's always frozen peas, frozen broccoli.
Mm,
Put a little Trader Joe's tree sprinkle on there, and you're good to go with basically any vegetable. They've got sprinkles for everything. Just go to the
true.
spice shelf. There's a million of those to make the veggies more fun. Although my kids are now addicted to cheese sprinkles, that might be a problem going forward. But for me, it was great. And I always just grab a ton of fruit when I go to the grocery store. So I've got fresh fruit. I at least have frozen vegetables, so I don't have to worry about them going bad. And I just keep those around all the time. So it's really easy just to grab things that don't have to be a fancy meal. Like I'm not making dishes for my family. My kids are eating like they want some gnocchi, they're getting some broccoli, some fruit, maybe like some sweet potato puffs. Like
Mm,
I'm not making crazy things for them or for myself. I just don't have time, which is
right.
ironic since I'm married to a chef
Yeah.
who has two restaurants. But the last thing they want to do when they come home is cook. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a chef. That was the big joke in my family was I said I'd marry a chef so I wouldn't have to learn to cook. And here I am. It happened, but not what I thought would come out of it. So it doesn't have to be hard. Like you don't have to invest a ton of time into making food. You can just, eat some yogurt and some fruit and some vegetables and you're good. It doesn't have to be complicated. Because I think a lot of people think it has to be hard. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why you're not doing it. Marching in place for 5 minutes at a time can get me 15,000 steps in a day. That's not hard. I keep adjustable weights. I've got those big adjustable ones
Yeah.
under my bed and I just pull them out 3 times, 4 times a week and lift weights in my room for half an hour. If my kids are home with me, I set them up with their coloring books or put on Go Diego Go and do a quick workout. And that's all it takes. And people even
Mm-hmm.
say like, oh, wow, you've got, really defined muscles. And I love that I can see them all again. It makes me so happy. The fat's gone. So all my hard work is showing, but that's not hard. That's not complicated. Like it's just scheduling it, making the time, having a plan. And I hold myself to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm able to get it all in because I plan for it every day of what I'm going to get done in terms of my food, when I'm going to get done in terms of my exercise, when I'm going to do it. And I hold myself to that because I don't want to go back. And I gave away all those mediums. So
Yes, you can't.
not buying those again.
What do you do when like you have a plan like that and then like something comes up? Like how do you like adjust like that? Because that's a struggle that I see a lot with clients.
If I can't exercise, that became my rest day. I'm going to work
Oh,
out a
okay.
different day, right? That's fine. Okay. Stuff happens or I got hurt or whatever, you got to deal with that. If on food, just like how you give us the pep talks every Monday, if you go over, like my husband wants to go to one of my favorite restaurants and they have a caprese piadini that I love, which is absolutely too many calories than what I actually need for the day, but it's delicious. I am going to eat it because I'm only going to eat it like once every 3 weeks or something, if that.
Yeah.
And it's only in season for a month, basically, with the tomatoes.
Mhm.
So that's okay. I'll just get back on track tomorrow. Like I know that those extra calories are not going to ruin me and not to go home and then eat a bowl of ice cream because, well, I went over anyway. I'll just be like, well, that meal is over. I know that. Moving on, back to my Yasa bar and the rest of my life. So don't tell yourself like you can't do it because, oh, you went over the one day or the one weekend. Like that's going to happen to anybody. And that's normal human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I know Halloween's coming up. Am I probably going to eat some Snickers bars? Probably, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'll eat what I needed to eat through the rest of the day and I'll try again tomorrow. But, and I'll try to eat something other than the Snickers bars next time. So yeah, I think as long as you're holding yourself to an overall idea versus everything has to be perfect, you'll be a lot more successful because we can't be perfect. Nobody can.
Yes.
Stick with it and you're going to be fine.
Yeah. So I hear you saying like trying to have a plan for each day, but like just taking each day for what it is. Try not to think of like your world's going to fall apart if the plan didn't go, but then also asking yourself, like, is there any way you could have improved it for the next time? And thinking about like long term as opposed to like what needs to get done like for perfection today. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Look at your whole week. Look at your whole month. Like
Yeah.
just don't beat yourself up and jump off the wagon. Like, stay on. It's gonna be
Yes.
okay.
Well, I think that was super, super helpful for everybody. I hope everybody else find it helpful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Danielle. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Millennial Nutritionist podcast. For daily weight loss tips and nutrition information, you can find us on Instagram at the.millennial.nutritionist and on TikTok at millennial.nutritionist. If you find this information helpful, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend who needs encouragement on their health journey. See you in the next episode.